Hey everybody, welcome back to Vlogmas, B-dub style. I thought today I would do an in the bag disc that I threw in 2024. So this is my bag. It is a Prodigy bag. It's a very large bag. I like it for all the things that it can do, such as carabine my towels and my whale sacks. A big fan of the whale sacks. Actually my favorite hand dryer. It's not too chalky and it gets the sweat off my hand, which I really like for that. So a fair number of pockets. Interestingly enough, for 2025, I'm actually thinking seriously about downgrading my bag because I just don't think I need this many discs. Partly, you know, when you play the same courses over and over again, you play the same disc, but I just find that there's just a lot of shots that I can do with just fewer discs. So I may debate on that for 2025, but we'll see. But this is what I used in 2024. And for the most part, it's pretty much the same. There's been a few tweaks in the year, and I'll talk about those in just a second. So let's start off with the putters. All right, let's start off with my understable PA5. If you watch the channel, you know I throw this a lot. It's a very nice disc. It basically is going to go straight and it's going to drift right. You throw it on hyzer, it'll flip up the flat, and if there's enough spin on it, it will continue right. The only thing about this, it generally does not come back. So once it starts changing lanes to the right, it stays to the right. So you gotta throw accordingly. This is my P Moto OS. It's a very overstable putter. Tends to go straight for a while and then goes left. I actually sometimes will use this as an approach disc or off the tee box instead of my distortion, because it actually flies farther than my distortion. So a new disc to the bag, because I was looking for something that was a little bit less stable than my P Moto OS, more stable than my PA5. So I ended up getting the P Moto US. And this one is interesting. I don't know if it's going to survive my bag because it tends to go straight. It's probably a little bit more overstable than my PA2. But there have been a couple times when I've pulled this out of the bag, partly for the color and partly because I know it's going to straight and fade left a little bit harder than my PA2. And then of course, you know, Gamera PA2, baby. I throw this disc a lot. This basically goes straight. It will finish left a little bit, not too much. If I put a little bit of hyzer on it, put a little bit of anhyzer on it, it'll flip the flat and it just wants to go straight. I don't know if that's normal for PA2s because the number would suggest it should be more overstable, but for me, this is a straight flyer. And I got this in one of my membership boxes, Prodigy Membership Club boxes, and I loved it so much I went on eBay to find another one because it comes in a 500 Spectrum plastic. So I don't know if that is what affects the flight, but if I lost this disc, there would be tears. And then I putt with the PA3. I just like the way it feels in my hand. It's a 300 soft, so it's a little bit, it's a little flex. It's actually cold out here today. And it's a little bit roll resistant, so I like it. But in general, the 300 soft feels really nice in my hand. So if you're in the market for a putter, check out the PA3. And I never throw the PA3. Not that I can't throw the PA3, but I just don't. And then we have my approach discs. So we'll start off with my A5. My A5 is an overstable approach disc. I actually don't throw this very much. I do like the stamp. I also got this in a Prodigy Membership Club box. I like the feel, but I actually don't throw it very often, so I don't know if it's going to survive to 2025, but it's definitely overstable. Tends to fly like a banana. You've seen me, this is my favorite upshot disc, the distortion. I forehand it, I backhand it. Basically, if I've got something within 150 feet and I need it to go left, right, throw it up and have it float in to the left. It just does what I want it to do, and it's my favorite approach disc. I can't imagine me not throwing the distortion. It reminds me of the harp, which I used to bag before I joined the Prodigy Street team. So who knows, but I think the distortion is now overtaken the harp. And then the A1, which has got just beef. It is going to turn. And so I use this disc. This is my utility disc when I need something to make a hard right or hard left, depending on forehand or backhand. Even though I don't throw it very often, it almost always, if I'm playing a wooded course, will come out at some point in the course, in the round. Then we have our mid-ranges. I have 3 mid-ranges. I have my M2, which used to fly straight and then dump hard left. It's gotten flippy on me, so I haven't decided if I'm going to switch it out for a newer M2. And then I've got my M3 Test Run 2.0. This also came in a Prodigy membership club box, and I love this disc. It is a straight disc, and I wish Prodigy would mass produce it. I don't know why they haven't yet, but I love this particular M3. It is fantastic. And then we have my Rip It M4. My Rip It M4 was intended to be my flippy mid-range, but it's not as flippy as I think it should be. I don't know if this will survive 2025. I do know if I put it on Anheuser, I can get it to flip, but I have to put it on Annie, and it's not as flippy. But it is a straight flyer, so it's a really nice sort of hyzer flip, straight flyer. But you have to, it does not come out of the box that way. And so you got to almost beat in an M4 to straight. I don't know if Prodigy makes a understable mid-range. This is probably the closest that it comes to, that I'm aware of. Now the fairway drivers. Now my fairway drivers, I probably throw all of them a lot. Start off with my F1, Died by Matt disc. This is a very overstable fairway driver. I actually use it quite a bit. There's a lot of shots that I needed to this disc to go straight and then finish hard left. I love my F1. This is my replacement F2, and unfortunately this F2 is trash. But I'm gonna use it to show that I used to have an F2 that was fantastic. Unfortunately, I lost it at Triad in a big pile of leaves and never to get it back. But the things I loved about my previous F2 is I could throw it on hyzer, would flip to flat, push straight, and then move left. And I used it a lot. This one is flippy, really flippy, and I don't know why. So I've ordered a new F2 and a more stiffer plastic, and I'm hoping the new F2 that arrives eventually will be what my old F2 used to be like. This is my Rip It F3. My F3 is more of a straight fairway driver. It will turn right and then turn left. Nice little skinny S-curve and finish stable onto the left side. My F5, maybe one of my farthest throwing discs in my bag with the exception of my D4. It will definitely S-shape, throw it, put it on a little bit of flat to Annie. It will move to the right and then S to the left, and it just goes for days. So I really love my F5. And then my F7. My F7 comes in my bag just about everywhere I go. If I need something that's going to turn right and finish left. This is a very flippy disc, and I love it, and I throw it. And if I throw it on hyzer, it's definitely going to flip the flat and still turn to the right. If I put it on Annie, it's gone to the right. And the only downside of the F7 is you got to be careful in the wind. So, but when conditions are right, the F7 is a perfect disc for when you need that disc to move, get good distance, move right, and finish left. Big fan of my F7. And then Prodigy is a little bit unique because it has these sort of in-betweeners, sort of these hybrid discs. I'm going to pull them all out at the same time. And so this is my FX2. This is actually similar to my F1, but it's a faster disc than my F1. So if I need something to go a little bit farther before it turns hard left, this is the disc for me. This disc is another workhorse for me. This is the FX3. My FX3. It's pretty stable. It's unlikely to turn over, although if I put enough Annie on it, it will turn over. but I have to put a fair amount of ante on it. And the thing I like about it is it will flip the flat, move, and then finish left. And so it's not nearly as overstable as my FX2. And I actually throw this quite a bit in the field. And if you watch the channel, you've seen me throw the FX2. The FX4 is also a faster disc. It's a 9-speed. It's basically, it's a disc that I've pulled out when I need something to go pretty far, pull relatively straight. It will turn a little bit to the right and then fade a little bit to the left. The numbers on it are 9, 5, -2, 1, and these numbers are actually pretty accurate. Interestingly enough, I don't throw this very often. I just really haven't had courses where I've needed the FX4. And when I do need to go really far, really straight, I almost always pull out the F5. So I don't know what the results of this disc will be in my bag for 2025, but it's there now. Relatively new disc to my bag is the F Model OS. The F Model OS will flip the flat, turn to the right a little bit, and then finish pretty hard left. It's a 10-speed. It's actually similar. It actually reminds me of my F3, maybe even a little bit of my older F2, but it goes significantly farther, and it's a much farther disc. I periodically pull this out on forehand. I really like it on forehand. Forehand, it will turn a little bit to the left, but always come back to the right. So this is a disc that I like to stamp on. This is my H3. It's another hybrid driver. It's a 10-speed. The thing about this disc is it's a little domey. I don't know if you can see that. But this one will turn over on me, and so, which is weird because it's less, the H4, which is supposedly supposed to be more understable than H3, is less likely to turn over on me. So I actually don't always throw this, but if I do throw it, I throw it on hyzer flip to flat, and have it go a good decent distance. But this is another one of those discs that have shown that I don't know if we'll make it to 2025. And then my last hybrid driver is my H4. This is my favorite hybrid driver. It's a really good disc. Basically, it's if you throw it flat, it's just going to go straight a country mile before dumping left. And if you put a little ante on it, it will turn to the right a little bit before it dumps out to the left. And this is a very good disc, H4 V2. So it's one of my favorite, and this is also one of my longest discs in my bag. And so not the longest, but if I want to get some decent distance and have something finish left, I go with the H4. Lastly, I did forget a hybrid driver. This is my H7, also 10-speed. This is a faster version of the F7. This one is not as flippy as my F7, but this one, if I can get a good flick on it, this one goes the farthest of my disc with kind of drifting to the right and then finishing left. I use this at Patriot at the long basket 16, I think it is. I think that's right. Basket 16 is the long one with the basket tucked away far a little bit down to the right. I always go with the H7. So I throw it out there, throw a little ante on it, and it's just going to drift right, finish left, and I can get this pretty far. And if I get a good hyzer on it, we'll get it about 350 feet. So this is also one of my longest discs. And so one of the biggest differences is the H4 is significantly more stable than my H7. Like I said, this is like a very fast F7, but not as flippy as my F7. And I love my Kittyzilla stamp. Also got this from a membership club box. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, are my distance drivers. And so we have a D2. D2, this is a very beefy disc. And I like the plastic, little flexible disc. This will not turn over on me. So if I have heavy wind, throwing into the wind, and I want to get some distance, I will throw this. I've also thrown this on basket 13 at Horizons to make sure I get the skip and the finishing left from OB. And then I have my D3, my Ripper D3. So this is probably close to an Innova Destroyer. And so I can get this to flip the flat. I can get this to get a little bit of an S If I put it on Annie, it will turn right a little bit, but it will always finish left. And so this is actually my go-to if I want to make sure that I'm going to get good distance, because this is one of my farthest throwing discs, and make sure that's going to come left. Great. And then last but not least is my D4. This is my distance driver. It's 11 or 12 speed, I can't remember. This one is by far the disc I hit the farthest for all the discs in my bag. The only downside of this disc is this disc will flip. This will turn over if I put too much Annie or if the wind is not good. But if the wind is right and I throw it correctly, this will give me a nice S turning to the right and then finishing left and giving me the longest distance of any disc in my bag. And so that is my bag. And so we'll see what happens in 2025. I'm sure there'll be a change up. But once again, thanks for joining me on Vlogmas. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, when you see me out there on the course, say hi. And I appreciate you all very, very much. Have a good one.